Good morning. Could everyone please take their seats? We're getting ready to begin soon. Thank you. First, allow me to introduce myself. I am the Executive Occupational Health Consultant for the Department of Labor, Occupational Safety and Health Administration Division. I want to say how much of a pleasure it is for me to speak before you today. Since the commencement of our Flip This series, nearly 5 years ago, we have conducted more than 75 lectures in 41 states and 3 U.S. territories. Additionally, this year we have also initiated a weekend webinar series to better meet the growing and diverse needs of our members. The purpose of our series is multifold. We want to educate and empower business owners and investors like yourselves to make wise decisions and adopt safe business practices. But more importantly, we also want to help decrease the public health burden from the seen and unseen dangers of mold. So let's begin. We asked all of you to complete surveys when you first entered. Those surveys have purpose. Many of you are uncertain what mold actually is. Is it the green cottony fuzz that grows on fruit and bread in the heat? Is it the pink slime that grows in the shower, or the black pestilence that creeps up from the toilet bowl? If you were thinking it's a combination of all of the above and more, you were correct. In today's discussion, we will address the common questions that many homeowners and investors have concerning mold, including how to determine if your recent investment has a mold problem, what are the health risks and legal ramifications associated with indoor mold, and how to safely mitigate a mold problem inside, and much more. As we introduce the topic of mold, it is necessary to provide adequate background information to help you better understand why mold is a problem. Molds are a type of fungus. They belong to the same family as mildew, yeast, and mushrooms. They grow ideally in dark, warm environments with high moisture and humidity levels. There are several types of mold, thousands in fact. Indoor molds constitute just one category. They tend to be found in areas around the home that are susceptible to higher moisture levels, like kitchens, bathrooms, and basements. Indoor molds can colonize household surfaces like carpet, wood, sheetrock, ceilings, insulation, wallpaper, and the sorts, just to name a few. There are 8 common indoor allergenic molds. Alternaria is a large spore-producing mold that typically inflames the upper respiratory tract, but it usually does not enter the bloodstream to exert systemic symptoms. Aspergillus affects grain crops, especially corn. It's commonly found in house dust, fall leaves, and building materials after water damage. Aspergillus produces aflatoxins. These are a type of mycotoxins that we will discuss in greater detail later. But for now, just know that mycotoxins cause severe systemic and chronic illnesses in humans and animals. Chytomium is usually not very problematic in healthy individuals, but it is associated with brain abscesses and fungal infections of the nail. Cladosporium is one of the most common outdoor molds, but it can easily enter indoor environments through the HIVAC system. It is associated with causing asthma and hay fever symptoms, including rhinitis, sinusitis, and bronchitis. Fusarium mainly affects barley and banana crops. However, it can also cause topical fungal infections of the nail and skin in humans, and it produces mycotoxins as well. Mucor can be necrotizing or flesh-eating and spreads rapidly. Mucor also produces mycotoxins and is responsible for a number of systemic fungal infections, especially in the immunocompromised. Penicillium is so named because some species of it actually produce the antibiotic penicillin, but it can also produce mycotoxins. And it's strongly responsible for asthma, allergies, and hay fever symptoms. It's also used in the food industry during the production of cheeses. Stachybotrys produces airborne mycotoxins considered to be highly toxigenic, also known as black mold or black slime mold. This type of mold is associated with serious breathing difficulties and pulmonary hemorrhage, as well as memory and hearing loss, dizziness, and flu-like symptoms. Now, we mentioned some of the health effects caused by mold on the previous slide. Let's discuss them in greater detail here. As the name would imply, pathogenic molds are responsible for causing disease in humans and animals. There are at least two different types: allergenic molds and toxigenic molds. Allergenic molds refer to molds that produce spores that are small enough to enter and invade the respiratory tract, often resulting in hypersensitivity reactions that can lead to allergies and asthma. Toxigenic molds are even more dangerous. They produce harmful toxins collectively known as mycotoxins. This is the term that we referred to earlier when speaking of aspergillus. Mycotoxins are just that, toxins. They are associated with a number of adverse health conditions. Not only that, but fungal infections in general can be very aggressive and are often difficult to treat. In fact, they frequently go undiagnosed or misdiagnosed in clinical practice. Fungus is usually not considered high on the differential list for ailments such as headaches, fatigue, and learning difficulties. Moreover, research has shown that fungal exposures may be an environmental trigger in the development of autoimmune diseases. Multiple sclerosis, systemic lupus erythematosus, and rheumatoid arthritis are a few examples of these. There has also been a fungal link to cancer established. Part of the reason mycotoxins are so harmful is that many are potent carcinogens, contributing to the development of liver cancer, renal cancer, cancer of the urinary tract, lung cancer, brain cancer, and cancers of the blood. Let's talk about why indoor mold is a public health problem. In the United States, the Environmental Protection Agency estimates that 1/3 to 1/2 of all buildings may contain areas that have enough moisture to support rapid mold growth. That statistic is very alarming. However, approximately 24% of homes have a history of water damage as well. This could be due to faulty plumbing, leaking ceilings, congested gutters, burst pipes, overflowing toilets, flooding wash machines, just to name a few possible causes. At least 20% of homes have a current problem with dampness and visible mold. Now, this number is likely to be an underestimation of the number of homes affected by mold, because many indoor molds, may not even be visible until the problem becomes excessive. For example, mold frequently grows inside walls, insulation, floorboards, and padding under carpet, areas that are not usually in plain sight. Furthermore, relatively healthy individuals may not even attribute their nonspecific complaints, like headaches and fatigue, to a chronic fungal exposure. So, what can be done to address the problem and protect potential investors and homeowners like yourselves? In most states, home inspections are required by law when transferring property title during the purchase process. However, not all states agree on what constitutes a thorough home inspection or which party is responsible for paying for it. Regardless, it is in the best interest of the buyer to request a home inspection, inclusive of testing for mold, contaminants, and excessive moisture levels. This can help avoid a headache in the future, no pun intended. Oftentimes, molds may not be visible to the naked eye and may not even elicit a hypersensitivity reaction in healthy individuals. But caution should be taken still. If the presence of mold is detected, please call a professional, one that is trained and qualified to remove mold safely. This cannot be stressed enough. Careful attention should be used to prevent the release of mold spores into the air. When attempting to do it yourself or DIY and clean smaller jobs, such as mold found on non-porous surfaces in the kitchen and bathroom, always use protective equipment and a cleaner capable of destroying mold spores. It is also a good idea to invest in an air purifier with HEPA filtration. But remember, removing mold from indoor surfaces can be dangerous. Some of the negative health effects of mold may not be apparent for many years. Please call a professional again. Benjamin Franklin is noted for saying an ounce of care is worth a pound of cure. This is certainly the case with mold. The prevention strategies that we are going to discuss today are key to avoiding larger catastrophes. First, take diligence to quickly address any active leaks or standing water found around the home. Repair all leaks as soon as possible. Next, remove and replace all materials affected by water damage. This may include floorboards, carpet and padding, and other porous materials, even if they have already dried. Ensure that adequate ventilation is maintained in the home at all times. Modern ventilation systems can be very useful, but do not replace the need to open doors and windows. We mentioned this before, but it is worth reiterating here. Pay special attention to cleaning kitchens, bathrooms, and other areas with frequent moisture exposure. The higher humidity levels and temperatures in these rooms can create the perfect breeding ground for mold. Invest in a HEPA air purifier and a vacuum cleaner with a HEPA filter. These can help to prevent the spread of mycotoxins and mold spores in the air. Although listed last on this list, you may want to consider this point first: natural alternatives. Vinegar, as well as oil of oregano, clove oil, tea tree oil, and other essential oils, are potent antifungal agents. This fact has been supported by several research studies. In addition to also having therapeutic properties, vinegar and essential oils are often less expensive and far less toxic to humans and animals than commercial antifungal cleaners. I hope by now it has become apparent that mold can be very problematic inside the home. With more than 1/3 of buildings in the United States and greater than 20% of American homes affected by moisture, mold, or a combination of both, it is difficult to ignore the dangers of indoor molds. Adverse health effects vary and range in severity from headaches and allergies to chronic diseases like asthma, autoimmune illnesses, and even cancer. All of these can be attributed to long-term exposures to fungus. Mitigating a mold problem is often a costly process and no easy feat to undertake by yourselves. It involves several levels of control measures, but it is necessary nonetheless. Depending on your state of residence and other eligibility requirements, you may be eligible to utilize funds set aside by the governor to help offset the expense. Additionally, many environmentally friendly home improvement projects can be used as tax write-offs. Know your rights as well as your responsibilities as investors and homeowners, if even only for the interim. Always request a thorough home inspection before or as a condition of the purchase agreement. Help in the effort to make others aware by sharing this information with your colleagues and family members. The preventative strategies that we discussed today can go a long way towards decreasing the issue before it becomes a larger problem. And please, by all means, be safe. If you currently own or are interested in purchasing a property that has excessive mold or moisture problems, reach out to a professional for advice. They are knowledgeable, qualified, and often more prepared to address issues with mold. Several references were used in the development of this presentation and are acknowledged. Ladies and gentlemen, you all have been a wonderful audience. As we conclude, I would like to remind you of the important role you have in society. As business owners and investors in the real estate market, you all are in the unique position to empower the next generation. I hope that you found this presentation enlightening and that you use this information to make better decisions, adopt safer business practices, and do your part to help decrease the impact of mold in public health. Thank you for your time and attention. We would now like to open the floor for questions and answers.